You know what I mean? Like it could work, but not really.
You're actually
I mean,
you're live right now.
oh,
Okay. Hello to anybody who's listening.
but that would be like, you just like, it just happens. Hey.
There you go.
Hey.
Oh, it's frozen.
It's just me.
You just froze it right there. Okay.
That's fine with me.
Okay. Now what happened to this?
Oh, it's gone.
No,
Hey.
it's a little bit of a delay. Huh. Cool.
It is kind of slow.
Wow. It's just a little bit
It
of a delay.
lags.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Okay. So here, what we ought to do, I think, is do you have your phone?
No.
Okay. Oh, and yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Let's go over here and
I'm in need of a phone.
yeah. Let's go over here and look through, and like, cause we're gonna run across like names and stuff like that we're gonna have to pronounce. That's so cool. Oh, my back's so
I love it. This is such a good idea.
Yeah, dude, it's pretty cool. Okay, so let's
Okay.
go through here a little bit. So
I got this. We're starting on 4, right?
yeah.
How long do we usually go?
I will actually be starting on 5.
You can start on 5. Should I just read 4?
Well, okay, here. Well, we read 4 yesterday. We read 1 through 4. So,
Okay.
what the idea will be to read 5, and we're gonna read 30 minutes after 10 o'clock. So
Okay.
to 10:30, and however far that gets us, I'm not sure.
We should definitely switch off chapters.
Can we do that? Okay. I think that sounds like a great
That's a
idea.
good idea.
So let's sit down here and look at some of
And
these
if we
names.
have any questions, should we like say anything to answer them?
Well, I don't think so. I think just only maybe at the start, whenever we're going, just to explain people, we're gonna switch off back and forth. And so let's look through here. So we'll be switching off chapters. Let's just glance.
Should we use the same translation?
I think so. So do you want to?
Let's use yours.
Okay.
And this also gives me incentive to read ahead.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, yeah. Kind of look up. Okay, so let's you can go and take a seat and like look through here. See, the point of this is we're not like professionals, so it's actually Mahalalel. So just as you're going along, yeah, like be aware that those words are gonna come along, and just like whatever works, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know. I mean, yeah. It's just like do the best you can, but
Yeah.
it's not like we're not professionals. That's the whole point of this.
We're not professionals.
Yeah.
We're gonna have fun.
Yeah. Do you wanna start off?
You start off.
Okay.
Boy.
Cool. I'll look through here a little bit, and like the names will be the same in your Bible. So I mean, if you want to look through and just like be aware of where they're gonna occur and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
I'll definitely read ahead later on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
You
So
ready?
I guess we still got about 10 minutes.
10
so
minutes.
Far, so yeah, it's fun,
Okay.
right? It's like you want to like start going. And
Yeah.
stuff like that. But yeah, it's a good time. Let's see. I honestly, so what happened yesterday when I was setting up, the Wi-Fi I started in the practice rooms over in the chapel, and the Wi-Fi was bad, so I read for like 30 minutes, and then I got on here to look, and there was a 10-minute video up, and I was like, what the heck? And it like, I would be like reading along, and all of a sudden it would like jump a chapter. Like, it
Oh
would just skip all
no.
that, and I was
You
like,
have to do all over again.
yeah, so I came back here, and that's why I only read like a short little bit. Yeah, so it's interesting. I should mute this. So
This
it's
is
not-
fun.
Yeah, dude, it's pretty cool. Mute that. Let's go back here. People aren't looking for that. Do you have water? I have water. We can get some water. It's just out of the faucet, but. Alright, I'm gonna have to wash you up. There's a bottle of water here. There you go. You're good.
So did you get this from the caps?
I think so.
What is Ozarka?
Sorry.
Made in Texas.
Brand name water bottle.
It's a Texas thing.
Oh, Texas. I'm gonna have to practice a little bit more like this. It's a good time.
Ba.
It is kind of interesting to see like the delay as you go along. But, yep, I'm here.
I like watching myself actually.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's weird to see yourself with a slight delay. Well, see, that's the cool thing. Is like it's good for anybody who tunes in to listen, but it's also good for the readers because like when you read the scriptures, like I don't want to get all mystical or anything, but it does start to like change you subconsciously, kind of. If it makes any sense, because these are the stories you begin to see the world through.
Like you put your heart into it and your mind follows.
Yeah, and these stories end up being like the glasses that you look at the world through, and it's like, you know, not to get it's not like a mystical thing. It's just like
things like I have felt the impact of being with other people before.
Yeah.
And I've felt like the driving force in me because of those people and who I was with and like what we did for other people. And then I've also noticed like how I would slowly go away from that because I wasn't with those people for a long period of time, and it's like really hard.
Exactly.
Fellowship is a very huge thing.
Yeah, and honestly, like these books, they're almost like the same thing as fellowship. Like when you're reading like Romans and Corinthians, you're spending time with Paul and like what you know, and you spend time around those people.
That's what, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I didn't really think of it that way until like I just went through a time last year where I was super busy and I wasn't really friends with anybody and I wasn't talking with them, so I felt kind of like lonely. Like you felt that feeling before.
Oh yeah, for the past 6 months or actually.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a long story.
But then like I started reading and it was like almost in a strange way, it's like I had friends again or something like that, you know. And it's like it's like being with books is actually kind of like spending time with people in a way. It's interesting. Yeah, I've read this thing. I've done one read through. Oh, you should check out. Okay, so while we're talking about the Bible Project, so that was one video that they make. They make a ton of others. And the ones that I watch the most. Find these guys. See, it's kind of like that stuff that I don't. So these are the books that I watch the most. So read Scripture, Genesis chapter 1 through 11. We should actually just watch the intro video sometime. You wanna?
After we do this,
after we do this. Yeah, that's true.
How many people do we have watching this so far?
Probably 0.
Let's
see. It's a bummer, you know. It's like something like.
Let's see, one watching.
Oh, we got one watching, and I think it actually.
One watching.
It might be us. Wes watching us. Dang it.
Oh, that makes sense.
You know. I feel like you gotta like start. I mean, there's just a time starting of a channel where you just gotta plug away and put content out
and
there.
And then people will look at it and okay, well, they have early stuff too. Let's check that out.
It's weird watching that delay, right?
Okay.
So anyway, so like those ones that you saw is Genesis chapter 1 through 11, and then some of them, like if the book's shorter, it'll just be like the book of Nehemiah or something like that, and it'll just kind of explain what it's all about. It doesn't really foist like a teaching on you. It's just like if you were watching the Spark Notes of the book, you know, it's like this is kind of what this book's about. Different things. Let's go see what we're streaming at. 1 millibyte, 14 millibytes. Okay. Looks like we're doing good. So if you like, it's got like a thing. It tells you what rate you're streaming at. I don't exactly know what it means, but I know that higher numbers are better.
Oh, okay. So megabytes is how much data is coming in.
Okay.
KB is bad. That's really slow connection.
That's what. Oh dang it! We just dipped into like 815, 750. We're going down. Okay, now we're up.
To KB, are we back to megabytes?
1.4 megabytes. Sometimes it goes up to 8. And I might actually like shut this off whenever we start streaming, just so it's not.
I think that's what it is, though.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're right.
Pretty sure.
Yeah, so I might close this tab whenever we start going. Looks like we're getting there, though.
I'm so skinny.
My watch is slow. Bryce, you are perfect the way you are.
I know.
My watch is off.
I just got like Ben Affleck's Robin someday. Anybody?
Yeah. Oh, I think it started a live stream on the same thing, which is fine. The point really isn't to go back. Okay. We're at 10 o'clock. You want to get going?
Yeah.
And the nice thing is, with another person, the other person can like watch the live stream to make sure it's not like messing up and we're not just reading. But yeah. All right.
I'm cool with that.
If you're ready to get started, I'll start in just.
All right.
Yeah, and I'll just read and then I'll just hand it off to you, I guess, whenever we get to the time.
Okay. Cool.
All right. Hey guys, for the none of you that are watching, welcome to LiveBible. We are broadcasting live from Ottawa, Kansas. I'm John Jared Hawks.
I'm Bryce Stephen Oberg.
And guys, today we are starting in Genesis chapter 5. Yesterday we had kind of a short reading. It was Genesis 1 through 4. It was only about 12 minutes or so. The idea will be to broadcast every day at 10 o'clock and read for about 30 minutes. So we're going to give that a go tonight and see how it goes. Me and Bryce are going to be switching off every chapter, so you'll get a little bit of both of our voices in your ear tonight.
But thanks for reading with us, and
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's dive in. All right, guys. Genesis chapter 5. This is the written account of the descendants of Adam. When God created human beings, he made them to be like himself. He created them male and female, and he blessed them and called them human. When Adam was 130 years old, he became the father of a son who was just like him, in his very image. He called his son Seth. After the birth of Seth, Adam lived another 800 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Adam lived 930 years, and then he died. When Seth was 105 years old, he became the father of Enosh. After the birth of Enosh, Seth lived another 807 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Seth lived 912 years, and then he died. When Enosh was 90 years old, he became the father of Kenan. After the birth of Kenan, Enosh lived another 815 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Enosh lived 905 years, and then he died. When Kenan was 70 years old, he became the father of Methuselah. After the birth of Methuselah, Kenan lived another 840 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Kenan lived 910 years, and then he died. When Methuselah was 65 years old, he became the father of Jared. After the birth of Jared, Methuselah lived another 830 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Methuselah lived 895 years, and then he died. When Jared was 162 years old, he became the father of Enoch. After the birth of Enoch, Jared lived another 800 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Jared lived 962 years, and then he died. When Enoch was 65 years old, he became the father of Methuselah. After the birth of Methuselah, Enoch lived in close fellowship with God for another 300 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Enoch lived 365 years, walking in close fellowship with God. Then one day he disappeared because God took him. When Methuselah was 187 years old, he became the father of Lamech. After the birth of Lamech, Methuselah lived another 782 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Methuselah lived 969 years, and then he died. When Lamech was 182 years old, he became the father of a son. Lamech named his son Noah, for he said, "May he bring us relief from our work in the painful labor of farming this ground that the Lord has cursed." After the birth of Noah, Lamech lived another 595 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Lamech lived 777 years, and then he died. After Noah was 500 years old, he became the father of Shem, Ham, and Japheth.
That sounded great, man.
Cool. All right, you're up, chapter 6. And just when you go, just say Genesis chapter 6 and start.
All right, guys. Genesis chapter 6. Then the people began to multiply on the earth, and daughters were born to them. The sons of God saw the beautiful women, and took any they wanted as their wives. Then the Lord said, "My spirit will not put up with humans for such a long time, for they are only mortal flesh." Okay. And took any they wanted as their wives. Then the Lord said, "My spirit will not put up with humans for such a long time, for they are only mortal flesh. In the future, their normal lifespan will be no more than 120 years." In those days, and for some time after, giant Nephilites lived on the earth. For whenever the sons of God had intercourse with women, they gave birth to children who became the heroes and famous warriors of ancient times. The Lord observed the extent of human wickedness on the earth, and he saw that everything they thought or imagined was consistently and totally evil. So the Lord was sorry he had ever made them and put them on the earth. It broke his heart, and the Lord said, I will wipe this human race I have created from the face of the earth. Yes, and I will destroy every living thing, all the people, the large animals, the small animals that scurry along the ground, and even the birds of the sky. I am sorry I ever made them, but Noah found favor with the Lord. The story of Noah. You know what? I like the Bible over here. Okay. The story of Noah. This is the account of Noah and his family. Noah was a righteous man, the only blameless person living on earth at the time, and he walked in close fellowship with God. Noah was the father of 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now God saw that the earth had become corrupt and was filled with violence. God observed all this corruption in the world, for everyone on earth was corrupt. So God said to Noah, I have decided to destroy all living creatures, for they have filled the earth with violence. Yes, I will wipe them all out along with the earth. Build a large boat from cypress wood, that's it. From cypress wood, and waterproof it with tar, inside and out. Then construct decks and stalls throughout its interior. Make the boat 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 40 feet high. Leave an 18-inch opening below the roof, all the way around the boat. Put the door on the side and build 3 decks inside the boat, lower, middle, and upper. Look, I am about to cover the earth with a flood that will destroy every living thing that breathes. Everything on earth will die, but I will confirm my covenant with you. So enter the boat, you and your wife and sons and their wives. Bring a pair of every kind of animal, a male and a female, into the boat with you, to keep them alive during the flood. Pairs of every kind of bird and every kind of animal and every kind of small animal that scurries along the ground will come to you to be kept alive, and be sure to take on board enough food for your family and for all the animals. So Noah did everything exactly as God had commanded him.
Is that great?
Thanks.
You can take a listen if you want. All right, guys, Genesis chapter 7. When everything was ready, the Lord said to Noah, Go into the boat with all your family, for among all the people of the earth I can see that you alone are righteous. Take with you 7 pairs, male and female, of each animal I have approved for eating and for sacrifice, and take 1 pair of each of the others. Also take 7 pairs of every kind of bird. There must be a male and a female in each pair to ensure that all life will survive on the earth after the flood. 7 days from now I will make the rains pour down on the earth, and it will rain 40 days and 40 nights until I have wiped from the earth all the living things I have created. So Noah did everything as the Lord commanded him. Noah was 600 years old when the flood covered the earth. He went on board the boat as to escape the flood, he and his wife and his sons and their wives. With them were all the various kinds of animals, those approved for eating and for sacrifice, and those who were not, along with all the birds and the small animals that scurried along the ground. They entered the boat in pairs, male and female, just as God had commanded Noah. After 7 days, the waters of the flood came and covered the earth. When Noah was 600 years old, on the 17th day of the 2nd month, all the underground waters erupted from the earth, and the rain fell in mighty torrents from the sky. The rain continued to fall for 40 days and 40 nights. That very day, Noah had gone into the boat with his wife and sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their wives. With them in the boat were pairs of every kind of animal, domestic and wild, large and small, along with birds of every kind. 2 by 2 they came into the boat, representing every living thing that breathes. A male and a female of each kind entered, just as God had commanded Noah. Then the Lord closed the door behind them. For 40 days the floodwaters grew deeper, covering the ground and lifting the boat high above the earth. As the waters rose higher and higher above the ground, the boat floated safely on the surface. Finally the water covered even the highest mountains on the earth, rising more than 22 feet above the highest peaks. All the living things on earth died. Birds, domestic animals, wild animals, small animals that scurry along the ground, and all the people. Everything that breathed and lived on dry land died. God wiped out every living thing on earth, people, livestock, small animals that scurry along the ground, and the birds of the sky. All were destroyed. The only people who survived were Noah and those with him in the boat, and the floodwaters covered the earth for 150 days.
Chapter 8. Or did you already do chapter 8?
Oh, no, yeah, that's what you're on, sorry.
Chapter 8. But God remembered Noah and all the wild animals and livestock with him in the boat. He sent a wind to blow across the earth, and the flood waters began to recede. The underground waters stopped flowing, and the torrential rains from the sky were stopped. So the flood waters gradually receded from the earth after 150 days, exactly 5 months from the time the flood began. The boat came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. I like that. Ararat. That's fine. 2.5 months later, as the waters continued to go down and other mountain peaks became visible, after another 40 days, Noah opened the window he had made in the boat and released a raven. The bird flew back and forth until the floodwaters on the earth had dried up. He also released a dove to see if the water had receded and it could find dry ground. But the dove could find no place to land because the waters still covered the ground. So it returned to the boat, and Noah held out his hand and drew the dove back inside. After waiting another 7 days, Noah released the dove again. This time the dove returned to him in the evening with a fresh olive leaf in its beak. Then Noah knew that the floodwaters were almost gone. He waited another 7 days and then released the dove again. This time it did not come back. Noah is now 601 years old. On the first day of the new year, 10.5 months after the flood began, the floodwaters had almost dried up from the earth. Noah lifted back the covering of the boat and saw that the surface of the ground was drying. 2 more months went by, and at last the earth was dry. Then God said to Noah, "Leave the boat, all of you, you and your wife and your sons and their wives. Release all the animals, the birds, the livestock, and the small animals that scurry along the ground, so they can be fruitful and multiply throughout the earth." So Noah, his wife, and his sons, and their wives left the boat, and all the large and small animals and birds came out of the boat, pair by pair. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord, and there he sacrificed and burnt offerings. The animals and birds had been approved for that purpose. And the Lord was pleased with the aroma of the sacrifice, and said to himself, "I will never again curse the ground because of the human race, even though everything they think or imagine is bent toward evil from childhood. I will never again destroy all living things. As long as the earth remains, there will be planting and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night."
All right, Genesis chapter 9. Then God blessed Noah and his sons and told them, "Be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth, all the animals of the earth, all the birds of the sky, all the small animals that scurry along the ground, and all the fish in the sea will look on you with fear and terror. I have placed them in your power. I have given them to you for food, just as I have given you grain and vegetables. But you must never eat any meat that still has lifeblood in it. And I will require the blood of anyone who takes another person's life. If a wild animal kills a person, it must die, and anyone who murders a fellow human must die. If anyone takes a human life, that person's life will also be taken by human hands. For God made human beings in his own image. Now be fruitful and multiply, and repopulate the earth." Then God told Noah and his sons, "I hereby confirm my covenant with you and your descendants, and with all the animals that were on the boat with you, the birds, the livestock, and all the wild animals, every living creature on the earth. Yes, I am confirming my covenant with you. Never again will floodwaters kill all living creatures. Never again will a flood destroy the earth." Then God said, "I am giving you a sign of my covenant with you and with all living creatures for all generations to come. I have placed my rainbow in the clouds. It is the sign of my covenant with you and with all the earth. When I send clouds over the earth, the rainbow will appear in the clouds, and I will remember my covenant with you and with all living creatures. Never again will the floodwaters destroy all life. When I see the rainbow in the clouds, I will remember the eternal covenant between God and every living creature on earth. Then God said to Noah, yes, this rainbow is the sign of the covenant I am confirming with all the creatures on earth. The sons of Noah who came out of the boat with their father were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham is the father of Canaan. From these three sons of Noah came all the people who now populate the earth. After the flood, Noah began to cultivate the ground, and he planted a vineyard. One day he drank some wine he had made, and he became drunk and lay naked inside his tent. Ham, the father of Canaan, saw that his father was naked and went outside and told his brothers. Then Shem and Japheth took a robe, held it over their shoulders, and backed into the tent to cover their father. As they did this, they looked the other way so they would not see him naked. When Noah woke up from his stupor, he learned what Ham, his youngest son, had done. Then he cursed Canaan, the son of Ham. May Canaan be cursed. May he be the lowest of servants to his relatives. Then Noah said, May the Lord, the God of Shem, be blessed, and may Canaan be his servant. May God expand the territory of Japheth. May Japheth share the prosperity of Shem, and may Canaan be his servant. Noah lived another 350 years after the great flood. He lived 950 years, and then he died.
That's a long time.
It's quite a long time.
Okay. Chapter 10. This is the account of the families in Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The three sons of Noah. Many children were born to them after the great flood. Descendants of Japheth. The descendants of Japheth were Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, and Meshach, and Tyrus. The descendants of Gomer were Ashkenaz, Ripheth, and Togarma. I like these names a lot. The descendants of Javan were Elisha, Tarshish, Kittim, and Rodanim. Their descendants became the seafaring peoples that spread out to various lands, each identified by its own language, clan, and national identity. Descendants of Ham. I like that. Ham. The descendants of Ham were Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. The descendants of Cush were Seba, Havilah, Sabta, Ramah, and Zebteka. I'm just doing it. The descendants of Ramah were Sheba and Dedan. Cush was also the ancestor of Nimrod. Nimrod. Here you are. Who was the first heroic warrior on earth? That's cool. Since he was the greatest hunter in the world, his name became proverbial because people would say this man is like a Nimrod, the greatest hunter in the world. He built his kingdom in the land of Babylon with the cities of Babylon, Erech, Akkad, and Calneh. From there, he expanded his territory to Azariah, building the cities of Nineveh, and Rehoboth and Calah, and Rezin, the great city located between Nineveh and Calah. Mizraim was the ancestors of Luditus, Anamites, Lehabitus, and a bunch of other names. Philistine, whom the Philistines came from. Canaan's oldest son was Sidon, the ancestor of the Sidonians. Canaan was also the ancestor of the Hittites and Jebusites and Amorites. Hivites, Archites, Sinites, Arvadites, Amorites, and Hamathites. The Canaanite clans eventually spread out, and the territory of Canaan extended from Sidon in the north to Gerar and Gaza in the south and east, as far as Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, and Zeboim near Lasha. These were the descendants of Ham, identified by clan, language, territory, and national identity. Descendants of Shem. Sons were also born to Shem, the older brother of Japheth. Shem was the ancestor of all the descendants of Eber. The descendants of Shem were Elam, Azur, Arphaxad, Lud, and Aram. The descendants of Aram were Uz, Hul, Gether, and Mosh. Arphaxad was the father of Shelah, and Shelah was the father of Eber. Eber had 2 sons. The first named was Pelag, which means division, for during his lifetime the people of the world were divided into different language groups. His brother's name was Joktan. Joktan was the ancestor of Almadad, Shalaf, Hazarmafel, Jerah, and Hadoram, Uzal, Dikla, Obal. I like Obal.
Yeah, there you go.
Abimal, Sheba, Ophir, Havilah, and Jabab. All these were descendants of Joktan. The territory they occupied extended from Mesha all the way to Sephir and the eastern mountains. These were the descendants of Shem, identified by clan, language, territory, and national identity. These are the clans that descended from Noah's sons, arranged by nation according to the lines of descent. All the nations of the earth descended from the clans after the great flood.
You selected that like a champion. Those names are tough.
Those are. But I really like some of them. This honey's good too.
There you go. Genesis chapter 11. At one time, all the people of the world spoke the same language and used the same words. As the people migrated to the east, they found a plain in the land of Babylonia and settled there. They began saying to each other, "Let's make bricks and harden them with fire." In this region, bricks were used instead of stone, and tar was used for mortar. They said, "Come, let's build a great city for ourselves with a tower that reaches into the sky. This will make us famous and keep us from being scattered all over the world." But the Lord came down to look at the city and the tower the people were building. "Look," he said, "the people are united and they all speak the same language. After this, nothing they set out to do will be impossible for them. Come, let's go down and confuse the people with different languages. Then they won't be able to understand each other." In that way, the Lord scattered them all over the world, and they stopped building the city. That is why the city was called Babel, because that is where the Lord confused the people with different languages. In this way, he scattered them all over the world. This is the account of Shem's family. 2 years after the great flood, when Shem was 100 years old, he became the father of Arphaxad. After the birth of Arphaxad, Shem lived another 500 years, and he had other sons and daughters. When Arphaxad was 35 years old, he became the father of Shelah. After the birth of Shelah, Arphaxad lived another 403 years and had other sons and daughters. When Shelah was 30 years old, he became the father of Eber. After the birth of Eber, Shelah lived another 405 years and had other sons and daughters. When Eber was 35 years old, he became the father of Peleg. After Peleg, Eber lived another 430 years and had other sons and daughters. When Peleg was 30 years old, he became the father of Reu. After the birth of Reu, Peleg lived another 209 years and had other sons and daughters. When Reu was 32 years old, he became the father of Serug. After the birth of Serug, Reu lived another 207 years and had other sons and daughters. When Serug was 30 years old, he became the father of Nahor. After the birth of Nahor, Serug lived another 200 years and had other sons and daughters. When Nahor was 29 years old, he became the father of Terah. After the birth of Terah, Nahor lived another 119 years, and he had other sons and daughters. After Terah was 70 years old, he became the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran. This is the account of Terah's family. Terah was the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran was the father of Lot. But Haran died in Ur of the Chaldeans, the land of his birth, while his father, Terah, was still living. Meanwhile, Abram and Nahor both married. The name of Abram's wife was Sarai. The name of Nahor's wife was Milcah. Milcah and her sister Iscah were daughters of Nahor's brother Haran. But Sarai was unable to become pregnant and had no children. One day Terah took his son Abram, his daughter-in-law Sarai, his son Abram's wife, and his grandson Lot, his son Haran's child, and moved away from Ur of the Chaldeans. He was headed for the land of Canaan, but they stopped at Haran and settled there. Terah lived for another 205 years, and he died while still in Haran.
All right. Chapter 12. I could probably do this pretty fast, yeah. The Lord had said to Abram, "Leave your native country, your relatives, and your father's family, and go to the land that I will show you. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you and make you famous, and you will be a blessing to others. I will bless those who bless you and curse those who treat you with contempt. All the families on earth will be blessed through you." So Abram departed as the Lord had instructed, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he left Haran. He took his wife, Sarai, his nephew Lot, and all his wealth, his livestock, and all the people he had taken into his household at Haran, and headed for the land of Canaan. When they arrived in Canaan, Abram traveled from the land as far as Shechem. There he set up camp beside the oak of Moreh. All that time the area was inhabited by Canaanites. Then the Lord appeared to Abram and said, I will give this land to your descendants. And Abram built an altar there and dedicated it to the Lord who had appeared to him. After that, Abram traveled south and set up camp in the hill country with Bethel to the west and Ai to the east. There he built another altar and dedicated it to the Lord, and he worshipped the Lord. Then Abram continued traveling south by stages toward the Negev. At that time, a severe famine struck the land of Canaan, forcing Abram to go down to Egypt, where he lived as a foreigner. As he was approaching the border of Egypt, Abram said to his wife Sarai, Look, you are a very beautiful woman. When the Egyptians see you, they will say, This is his wife. Let's kill him. Then he can save her. So please, tell them you are my sister. Then they will spare my life and treat me well because of their interest in you. And sure enough, when Abram arrived in Egypt, everyone noticed Sarai's beauty. When the palace officials saw her, they sang her praises to Pharaoh, their king, and Sarai was taken into his palace. Then Pharaoh gave Abram many gifts because of her: sheep, goats, cattle, male and female donkeys, male and female servants, and camels. But the Lord sent terrible plagues upon Pharaoh and his household because of Sarai, Abram's wife. So Pharaoh demanded Abram and accused him sharply. What have you done to me? He demanded. Why didn't you tell me she was your wife? Why did you say she is my sister and allow me to take her as my wife? Now then, here is your wife. Take her and get out of here. Pharaoh ordered some of his men to escort them, and he sent Abram out of the country along with his wife and all his possessions.
Nice. Let's see where we at. 27. I bet we got time for one more chapter.
Yeah, one more chapter.
All right.
That's crazy.
Genesis chapter 13. So Abram left Egypt and traveled north into the Negev, along with his wife and Lot and all that they owned. Abraham was very rich in livestock, silver, and gold. From the Negev, they continued traveling by stages toward Bethel, and they pitched their tents between Bethel and Ai, where they had camped before. This was the same place where Abram had built the altar, and there he worshipped the Lord again. Lot, who was traveling with Abram, had also become very wealthy, with flocks of sheep, goat, herds of cattle, and many tents. But the land could not support both Abram and Lot with all their flocks and herds living so close together. So disputes broke out between the herdsmen of Abram and Lot. At that time, the Canaanites and Perizzites were also living in the land. Finally, Abram said to Lot, Let's not allow this conflict to come between us or our herdsmen. After all, we are close relatives. The whole countryside is open to you. Take your choice of any section of the land you want, and we will separate. If you want the land to the left, then I'll take the land on the right. If you prefer the land on the right, then I'll go left. Lot took a long look at the fertile plains of the Jordan Valley in the direction of Zoar. The whole area was well watered everywhere, like the garden of the Lord or the beautiful land of Egypt. This was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. Lot chose for himself the whole Jordan Valley to the east of them. He went there with his flocks and servants and parted company with his uncle Abram. So Abram settled in the land of Canaan, and Lot moved his tents to the place near Sodom and settled among the cities of the plain. But the people of this area were extremely wicked and constantly sinned against the Lord. After Lot had gone, the Lord said to Abram, Look as far as you can see in every direction. north and south, east and west. I am giving this land as far as you can see to you and your descendants as a permanent possession, and I will give you so many descendants that, like the dust of the earth, they cannot be counted. Go and walk through the land in every direction, for I am giving it to you. So Abram moved his camp to Hebron and settled near the oak grove belonging to Mamre. There he built another altar to the Lord. All right. Come back and we'll say our goodbye here.
Altars.
Yeah, no, he's just building altars all over the place and stuff. Cool. Well, guys, today we read from chapter 4 to, we ended on chapter 13, and we'll pick up there tomorrow. If you guys, so this is a lot of heavy stuff. It's ancient Near Eastern literature, and a lot of it can be confusing. If there is something that you're confused about, like, this is probably what I'm going to do after this, I recommend going to www.thebibleproject.com. They just create videos to explain a lot of what we just read and some themes that run through the Bible, so go check them out. I am John Jared Hawks.
I am Bryce Stephen Oberg.
We are broadcasting, or we have been broadcasting from here in Ottawa, Kansas. This has been Live Bible. Thank you guys for watching, and those of you who watch later.
Thank you.